I usually get to make jokes. It's like no jokes. So our next speaker is an engineer who has worked for the past 8 years with water charities in developing countries. There's not going to be any jokes here either. He has lived and worked in remote places around the world, shared stories and meals with countless families, and been upstaged in soccer matches by hundreds of nimble-footed kids. Throughout these years, he's developed a vision of how water treatment might be done better. He has now created a company called 2/3 Water, where he and his team intend to change the way families in the developing world get their drinking water. Please welcome Bradley Pierik.
Good evening. So I've spent the past 8 years of my life exploring this big question of how can I contribute something in the world? And this has taken me to many different countries, and I'd like to share a bit of this story with you tonight. So we started in Ethiopia, where 8 years ago I was drilling wells with a team of 7 big burly Ethiopian men up in a remote part of the highlands. And I met this little girl named Imush. Adorable 4-year-old, but she had a serious burn on the inside of her arm. And it was cracked and oozing, and I think it was infected. And I had my trusty med kit, so I managed to bandage her up and replace it for a couple weeks, and she healed up pretty nicely. But I learned from the men on the drill team that this is a really common problem for families who boil their drinking water. So what happens is when you have a big family living in a small one-room house, and you're trying to boil enough water for the whole family every day, you end up, you have your water balanced on this little tripod-style kerosene stove, and it spills, from time to time, and it causes terrible burns. But beyond that, this problem also creates massive deforestation from firewood and high levels of respiratory disease, and it's even really expensive for the families to be able to afford firewood every day. So because of all these problems, most families actually don't treat their water at all. So imagine drinking water like this with no treatment. And this is why more than half of the world's hospitalizations come from waterborne disease. So I came away from this experience with the overwhelming sense that surely we can do better than this. And I wanted to be a part of it. So I spent the next 4 years taking every chance I could get to learn about this problem, engage with the technologies, went through engineering school, worked with internships at water companies, different charities, research labs, just to learn everything I could about this. And so if we fast forward four years later, my wife and I are living in the Philippines. I'm working on several different water projects, and just days after we moved back to Vancouver here, Manila was hit with the worst typhoon they've seen in living memory. There was a meter of water through this city of 12 million people. The slums were wiped out, there were landslides. Even in the rich areas, families were drowned in their cars trying to escape. It was just horrifying. So I was on the phone trying to coordinate with these charities and figure out how can we get people access to safe water now when it's so much more urgent, but so much more challenging to be able to reach people, right? And it was a nightmare because every option we had really required training for every individual family. And so I'm trying to get manuals translated and sent there. Of course, they can't print them. We really didn't have much to work with at all. And I became very passionate about this idea of creating a water treatment method that can compete with boiling in terms of simplicity. You don't have to teach people how to boil, right? You just get it. And so I wanted to do this in a way that, unlike boiling, would be really well suited to the lives and habits and preferences and lifestyles of families in developing countries. So fast forward again, over the next 3 years now, I was going through grad school and working with other water charities, and I started taking apart water filters and building them the way I thought they should work. So whenever I was on assignment in the field, I'd spend all of my downtime interviewing people, learning how can I make this better, putting it in somebody's hands and seeing if they could use it without me having to explain, right? And And then I'd come home, I'd ask tons of questions and come home now able to build a better water filter. And I did 7 iterations of this in Senegal, Dominican Republic, Uganda, and this kind of culminated about a year ago in Haiti, where these photos were taken. And I was in this village in the mountains in northern Haiti, this remote little village we could only get to by motorbike. And the week that I was there, there was a resurgence of the big cholera epidemic. And 5 people died in that village that week. So the last morning that I was there, I was interviewing a mother going through the same process, learning how can I make you a better water filter. And as I was talking to her, a funeral procession went past. And I was just, it really hit me when I saw that the casket was, less than 3 feet long. And this was a little girl who had died. Imagine having diarrhea so bad that you die in 5 or 7 hours. And that's what cholera does. So I'd really fallen in love with this village. I was just heartbroken. But I came home just with a fire in my heart that this isn't going to be like this interesting little side project that I kind of work on from time to time. I'm going to take this on and make this my life. So I finished up grad school, started a company. My business partner, Kevin Riley, joined, and he had some awesome ideas for the filter. And we now, for the past year, have gone through all the steps of setting up the organization, the legal, the patents, the product design. So now we're ready to pull the trigger on mass production, and we're just trying to bring in the money so we can afford to do that. So I'd like to show you the filter. It's right here, obviously tiny, pocket-sized, right? This is a prototype from our 3D printer, which we have all kinds of fun with. And it's just really dead simple to use. So the inlet and outlet have several types of fittings, so it works with whatever containers the family already uses. We've learned that that's really important. And this is how easy it is to use. Right now the filter's open. Hook it up and water will flow through. I just rotate, 1 click, now it's closed. Water will stop. And then we have this third position that lets us pump up and down like this. And that's just so occasionally, maybe once every few weeks as the filter starts to clog up, you can just pump it up and down and flush away any dirt that's become trapped. So it keeps working as good as new. When I was in Haiti, I was drinking from one of our prototypes the whole time I was there. And I knew if this little girl's family had one of these filters, she'd probably still be running around and, good as new. And so we're really passionate about just making this available. So we are setting up partnerships with some amazing organizations in developing countries around the world, looking for more partnerships. If you know somebody, please introduce us. And just really excited to take off with this. So this is our story. This is the story of 2/3 Water. Thank you so much for the chance to share it.